Yo, what is going on, guys? It is Taylor the Fiend back again. Got a story for you here today titled My Pregnant Wife Assumed That I Would Raise Her Affair Partner's Baby, but I Divorced Her Instead. This story is absolutely insane. So, we have a woman who went out here, had a child to a different man, and now expects her husband to be like, you know what, I'm going to raise this kid as if it were my own. I swear, so many of these women do not live in reality. They don't understand that men are not interested in looking after children that are not their own. They love to pull out all of the shaming cards and say that men need to do this and men need to do that. But it's absolutely disgusting. So let's jump into this story right here today. It is a 34-year-old man. He says a 34-year-old man, or the article says a 34-year-old man shares how he found out the child his pregnant wife was carrying was not his, not through her confession, but through a cold clinical paternity test that she never thought that he would take. He says, I'm a 34-year-old male. My wife, now ex-wife, is 32. We were married for 6 years, together for 8. Our relationship had its normal ups and downs, etc. She got pregnant about a year ago, and we were both thrilled, or at least I was. Now, guys, please understand, when these women go out here and they get pregnant to another guy, they absolutely know, okay? So many of them are like, oh, you know, I had no idea. I thought you were the father. And even though the paternity test will show that, you know, there is a 0% chance that this guy that they are currently with is the father, they will still say crap like, oh, but it was definitely yours, or it's fake, right? It's not real. Absolutely ridiculous. He says, I was already talking about baby names, fixed up the second bedroom into a nursery, researching hospitals. I was committed, he says. We told friends and family pretty early, and I was already thinking ahead to be a dad for the first time. But something about how she acted during the pregnancy just felt off. He says, during the pregnancy, she became more withdrawn. She became less affectionate. She stopped wanting to talk about baby stuff unless she brought it up. I figured maybe she was just overwhelmed. Pregnancy is no joke, right? Still, something kept nagging at me. It wasn't just emotional distance. She started insisting on doing prenatal visits alone. She said that it was just easier because of scheduling. He says, I didn't press. I trusted her, but my gut says something was wrong. Whenever I hear a man talk about how he, you know, his gut feels off, his gut feeling is telling him that something is wrong, something is not right, I always encourage the man to follow through with that gut feeling, okay? And if the women get offended, I'm sorry, too bad, okay? Because here's my opinion. If you have a wife or a girlfriend or whatever, and she's having a child, and she gets offended at the idea, for example, that you want a paternity test, I think that tells you everything you need to know, man. Women are out here scamming dudes left and right, convincing them to raise their kids that are not their own, and the women know. Okay, so I think that if you have a gut feeling that something is off, you should absolutely see if that is true. I'm not one of these people, guys, who walks around calling men insecure and saying that we should just ignore our gut feelings. Men have gut feelings for a reason, and they are very useful to men. Okay, if you don't trust your gut, I mean, if you just ignore your gut, there's a good chance you'll end up ruining your life. Absolutely. Let's continue. He says, one night over dinner with a close friend of mine who happens to be a nurse, I mentioned the idea of getting a prenatal DNA test. Not because I suspected anything, but just to be thorough since I have a genetic condition on my side of the family. My wife froze. She laughed it off, saying, is that even safe? And changed the subject quickly. Okay, so I'm not a father, guys, right? I'm not out here. I don't have like a son or daughter walking around, okay? So people do prenatal DNA tests to see whether or not their child is going to have any issues. That's my understanding of what this is, okay? If your wife freaks out at this, again, this is a very, very large red flag, in my opinion, okay? Your wife doesn't want you to look at doesn't want you to conduct a DNA test of your child. That should absolutely be cause for concern, guys. Because again, if the dude was the parent, why would she have an issue with this, right? Why would she try and make it into a big deal? Is that even safe, right? They just swab the kid, I'm sure, and then they you know, like, it's not that big of a deal. Anyway, she laughed it off, saying, "Is that even safe?" and changed the subject quickly. That reaction planted the first real seed of doubt. So I did some quiet research, and it turns out non-invasive prenatal paternity tests are 100% possible as early as 8 to 10 weeks in. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can just swab the kid, right? There are multiple methods through which you can do these sorts of DNA tests, but there are certainly safe ones you can do. You don't need to do anything highly invasive to a newborn child or anything like that. So without telling her, I arranged one. I told her it was basic genetic screening. She signed off on it without a second thought. Fantastic. About 2 weeks later, the results came in and it was 0% chance of paternity. I reread the results multiple times. I was not the father, and based on the dates, she would have had to cheat right around the time we conceived or thought that we did. I didn't cry. I didn't flip a table. I just went completely numb. It's unfortunate that a lot of guys kind of discover stuff this way, man. You know, because here's the thing. The wives and the girlfriends, they're never going to tell these men. They're never actually going to bring it up and actually let these guys know. A lot of men will get this idea in their head that, oh, she would have told me at some point, you know. It's completely insane, okay? The women try and keep this crap hidden for as long as possible, indefinitely if they can, and hope that you're going to be there raising a kid that is not your own. She knows damn well that this dude had this other man who was in the picture. Hell, there were probably multiple other guys in the picture. She knows damn well that there is a high probability, a very high probability, that that kid is not yours, and she doesn't tell you. Okay? This is just instant divorce, man. Instant divorce. He says, that night I laid the paper on the table in front of her. She didn't even ask what it was. She knew. Her face went pale. She started to stutter, and she said, I don't lie. Oh, he said, I don't. He said, do not lie, I already know. Then, after a long silence, she actually said this. She said, I didn't think it mattered. You've always wanted to be a dad. I thought you would just accept it. Holy hell, man. So she just assumed, right? She actually assumed that this guy would stick around and just look after the kid that is not his own, that it's not that big of a deal. Insane. Absolutely insane. I don't like, you have to be such a dense individual to not understand how important paternity is. And it's very, guys, it's very easy for women to go around saying crap like this because the kid is theirs. You know, like the kid is 100% theirs. She birthed the child. She understands that it's hers. She understands that her DNA is there. So, of course, they have no issue with it. They have no issue throwing around the men need to step up. Men need to look after a kid that is not their own. Men need to do X, Y, Z. There is no problem for these women saying that men need to do these things. Okay? Because the kid's already theirs. It doesn't matter who the hell to them looks after it as long as the kid gets looked after. Right? Because they're unable, right, or unwilling to see anything that affects somebody else, in particular a man, right? Because you're just expected to shut up and provide and help, even look after kids that are not your own. So she planned to pass the child off as mine, lie to my face, to our families, to the child itself for life. She says, my decision was instant. I told her I wanted a divorce. She went from fake crying to screaming in a matter of minutes, accused me of abandoning her while she was pregnant, said that I was throwing away a family over biology. This has to be the stupidest sentence I have ever heard. Throwing away a family over biology. This woman is not the brightest, is she? She's just really not the brightest. He says, no, I was throwing away a lie. I wasn't going to spend the next 2 weeks raising someone else's kid while the woman I loved stared at me in the face and pretended that everything was completely fine. The guy she cheated with, gone. That's always the way it is, guys, right? It's like the women will cheat with a dude and then the dude will never stick around because the women are insufferable. You know what I mean? Like, of course these guys don't want to stick around. Holy hell. So the guy she cheated with was gone. According to one of her friends, he ghosted her as soon as she told him that I knew. He tried spinning the narrative to our families, claiming that I was heartless and insecure. Imagine being called insecure, guys, because you don't want to raise a kid that's not your own. I calmly sent a few people the test results and let them decide for themselves. The divorce is in motion. I'm not on the birth certificate, no child support, no contact. This guy got off. You know, like, it's good to see this guy got out. I've actually heard situations of dudes being required to pay child support for children that are not their own. And again, I think the moment a man is put on the hook for child support, a DNA test should be absolutely mandatory. I don't think you should be able to even get child support out of a man unless he's actually, hell, just straight up period. I don't think men should be paying child support for these women. If the women can't afford to financially take care of the child, they shouldn't be having it. But again, like, the paternity tests should be absolutely immediately done and mandatory whenever they're trying to extract resources from men. So she assumed that I'd be too soft, too in love, and too excited to notice. She thought that she could just rewrite reality and I would just go along with it. But I'm not that guy. I didn't get revenge. I just walked away. I think this guy did the right thing. Just immediately leave her. You know, and the real loser in this situation, right? The person who really loses out on this is unfortunately the kid. Okay, it's not the dude she cheated with. It's not her because she was a complete clown. The real loser in the situation is actually just the child, and that makes me quite sad to hear. But guys, we're going to be leaving today's episode there. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and your comments. Make sure you guys take care of yourselves, and I'll be seeing you all in the next one. Peace.